Well, welcome everybody. My name is Dr. JD Swanson. Welcome to 15 Minutes of Thought. Today what I want to talk about is Mawashi Geri. So we've already done one class on the kick already, and I'll link to that somewhere up the top here. Today I want to go on about some variations with the kick. So without further ado, let's get started. Good, so let's warm up with the kick, thinking about a couple of principles in the most basic version that we can do, right? Remember, in its most basic version, it's a simple lift, high and tight to the back, a turn with the leg coming out, and you're maintaining the straightness across the hip, right? So the idea here is that it's this lift to the back, balances off, it's early in the morning, and a turn round, this sort of idea. When you move a lot quicker, of course, this technique simply has the same feeling of loading high and tight, but the hip is already in motion, making the turn, right? The hip is already loading, it comes up, the hip's in motion, I lift high and tight, and that creates the action of the kick, just like so. So what I would do is warm up with that, warm up on both legs, and then we'll move on with some variations and some important points in those variations. Give it a go. Excellent. So what I want to do now is let's talk about the classic do Mawashi Geri off the front leg. And we've all done this in tests and so forth. The things you want to think about here is pushing down actively on this hip. So you've done an action where it's in kokutsudachi, you lift, you kick, boom. And you try and maintain your body weight, your body center in one place without moving. The same thing happens, of course, if I try and do maigiri off the front leg without moving my center. Just very hard to do, right? You've got to have strong hips, strong legs. For Mawashi Geri, it's doubled, it's just as hard. So it's keeping that pressure down, lift the leg up, but instead of lifting the knee high and tight, think lift to make the kick. Lift up and round. So keeping that action down and thinking of lifting here, boom, that load. Here, boom, that load. Again, I have to rock back because I need to be able to adjust my weight. In reality, I try and hold it centered and just make the kick. Just make the kick. So what you can do here is practicing 1, boom, hold, boom, 2, and then 3. And then once you're more used to it, just kick. Chudan or Jordan, your choice. Give that a go. That's our first variation. Excellent. Now let's do our second variation. So from here, one that you see quite often is the classic tournament sort of idea of going off the front leg. So I'm in Zenkutsudachi or Kamae, and from here I squeeze in, make the step in, and just make the kick. So what you want to do as you do this technique is number one, use the transition and almost skip. Feel it skip and lift. And again, what I'm doing is I'm lifting up high and tight, taking what I've learned from doing this, and then just throwing the kick at the zenth. So it's here, feel the technique, skip in, I'm in kamae, I skip in, boom, boom, and make the kick. Feel the technique, skip in, place, kick. Again, loading as normal. So as you go, as you get more comfortable with it, you may start 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. As you become more comfortable, it might become 1, 2, and as you become more comfortable, don't even place this leg. Just skip them, right? I'm here, skip, make the kick, like so. Give that a go. Excellent. So this is the way that we load, and the way that we load traditionally for Mawashi Geri is, of course, this nice high and tight action. But in reality, there are other loads that exist for Mawashi Geri. One of them is loading the knee right to the front. And what that does for you is it does some really unique things. And there are pros and cons to it, of course. I'll go through those in a second. So as you make this load to the front, what you find is that, like Taekwondo does it, you see it in other types of karate as well. The load to the front has the main argument when people tell you that they load to the front. You don't know whether they're going to load maigiri, kekome, or Mawashi Geri. You have no idea which kick they're actually going to throw. So the load to the front has a very particular hip action that's really important and really cool to develop. So what I'll do, as I make this kick, I load, and then what happens is my hip turns over, makes the classic low position, the leg then comes out. So notice it's all through my back foot, just like every kick. The key is in the support leg, not the leg going out. The leg going out looks pretty and stuff, but it's all in the way that your back foot integrates into the technique. That's it, period. So as you make this, have the feeling of loading, then watch my back foot. Here, the back foot goes, that turns my hip over. And what that also does is it has the simultaneous effect of loading. I'm in the classic load from Mawashi Geri again. Notice how that happens. You can liken this directly, so I'll show you from the other side. I'm here, I lift to the front just like I'm doing Mairi, and then I simply turn my hip over. The last piece, of course, is I then allow myself to then make the kick round. I lift, I turn over, and then the kick just comes round. Do it to the front so you can see. I lift, I turn over like so, and then that allows me to make the kick, bang, like so. So why is this useful? Why is this a sort of interesting way to go? A number of reasons. Number one, we'll talk about the cons. You cannot do this close range. Shoulder gets in the way. The way that we traditionally load of back and round will 100%, if you're close to the person, you can throw the kick, miss the shoulder. This, it's got to come high, and then you've got to scoot over. You need some distance to do that. And you can play with that with another human if you like. The advantage to doing it this way and having this hip flip is that it allows you to add the hip to the technique. So when I do the kick, just like we were talking about the hip and the body coming around at the same time, it's not a broken down in the classic version, 1, then 2, it comes out together to make the kick, so the hip and the foot happen together. This one's the same way. As it lifts up, the hip and the leg happen together. The hip flip pushes the leg out, so it's this pump, pump feeling. So that's number one. So you've got the weight of the body behind it. There's actually some oomph to the kick rather than just sort of flip-flapping your leg out. The second thing is that I can kick in a very narrow gap. So I've got my 2 lines here on the ground and go back as far as I can. If you watch, my foot almost never goes further or wider than the distance between these 2 lines. And this can be useful if a guard is here and I've got to go between the guard to be able to hit them. Right, so if they're here and come I can come straight up and come round on the inside. So allowing you to lift allows that. And if you notice, my foot as it trails up almost doesn't go either side of these lines, and I still hit them on the side of the face. Those are the 2 big advantages there. So give that kick a go, have a play with it, and we're going to add it in the principles from that kick into one more piece, and then that'll be it for today. Give it a go. Excellent, so you've tried that variation. It can take a little while to get, but what you want to do then is you want to include it into the tournament sort of idea. So a lot of people will spar from this sort of doing the work that we did just before and just do it as a switch of the hip. And the downside to that is all you have is a little bit of linear action and the strength of just sort of flipping your leg out. If you can remember what you've learned, keep your hips square, and instead of turning it to the side and kicking up, turning it to the side and kicking up like so, instead keep the hip back and then turn the hip over at the action of the kick. It will end up stronger. You end up with this idea of flipping in, knee it, and then going. So I'm almost lifting like a front kick. It's almost the same as lifting like a front kick, except I then flip my hip and the kick goes out as Mawashi Geri. So this allows you now to not just be points fighting, pop, but to actually add some body weight and some body center into that kick. So with that, that's the 15 minutes of thought. Play with those variations. Understand how one leads to the other. Understand how this, the classic version leads the classic tournament, The new version, boom. The new version. How these all lead and work together to develop to be able to hit somebody in the side of the face really, really hard. Have a really good day. Look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care. Hey, us.